I was a single mom stuck at my parents' house. It wasn't easy. Then I heard about Everest and decided to give him a call. I called him up and went in. I took a tour and I got help with financial aid. I signed up that day and right away I was in scrubs, hands-on, actually doing it. And I got lots of one-on-one with my instructor. They work with my schedule so I could still take care of Joseph. I think he was happy. And Career Services set up my first interview. Now that I've graduated, life is better for me and better for Joseph, and our future is bright. And I think I changed my whole life with just one phone call.
One phone call can change your life too. Call Everest now. 1-800-316-9227. Everest.
You're sitting on the couch, you're watching TV, and your life is passing you by. You keep procrastinating over and over. Well, maybe I'll go to school next year, maybe next semester. No, do it right now. They'll work with you after work, or you can go before work. You can do whatever you need to do to graduate. Go talk to somebody right now. They out to help you. You spend all day on the phone anyhow. Why don't you make a phone call that's gonna help you in your future? All you gotta do is pick up the phone and make the call. Why are you making it complicated? It's easy.
I know some of you remember those videos. Those came on like the first decade of the 2000s. And especially if you worked like a second shift job, you would see those videos a lot in the morning on a lot of like cable news shows. And also if you was up real late at night, you would also see those commercials. And also you would see them on the weekends. And one thing I understand now, because I know a lot more about marketing and media, is the reason why they ran those commercials so strongly is because they were working. Right? Most people cannot afford to buy multiple television slots across multiple markets all across the United States and to keep running those ads. And some of those ads are, I wouldn't say they're legendary, but they're like a reference point in time for so many people. And it's because of how long they saw those ads over and over and over again, which means what? They worked. And many people went to these for-profit colleges. They did not have the experience that they desired. When they came out, if they ever finished, they had a large amount of debt because normally these particular schools are financed. They had a large amount of debt, and then when they entered into the workplace, they found that often their job prospects were not as, I would say, the opportunity was not really there that they anticipated when they joined the school. And what we saw with a lot of these for-profit schools is they were very good on the sales end, but the curriculum end, they really weren't that good. And they were sometimes educating people in areas in which there wasn't really a market established for that particular job. There's a for-profit school in the city that I'm from. We're not going to say their name because it's not about putting them on blast. And they educate a lot of people. And they built themselves up to a space now to where they literally have a whole section of the city that they've taken over. Right, real small area, but pretty much everybody in that area are young people going to this particular for-profit school. However, many of the people that graduate from that school, if they do graduate, they rarely find a job in the area that they got educated in at that school. It's very unfortunate. And what we've seen is that a lot of people over the years have been left with a lot of debt because of these for-profit colleges. Then they still had to try to turn around and figure out, well, what can I do to make myself an attractive candidate for employment while still trying to pay this debt off. And this debt forgiveness has been a real big topic for us over the past few years. Some people are for it, some people are against it. I'm for it, right? Even though as a taxpayer, I'm on the hook for it. I really don't care because I think that if it's stopping people from becoming successful, I would rather wipe it clean and allow a person a clean slate as opposed to just holding them down with that debt, especially if they kind of, as a young person, were oversold on something and really kind of didn't really understand what they were getting themselves into. So me personally, I don't care if they wipe all the debt. I would wipe it all clean and just tell the person, okay, don't worry about it anymore, but that's me. Here's an article that pretty much just came across the wire today from the New York Times. And what we see is that around 200,000 former students who attended schools that they say defrauded them going to have about $6 billion in federal loans canceled under a settlement on Wednesday. And this has been announced by the Biden administration to address the student loan crisis. And so those who applied for some relief, often as long as 6-7 years ago, will have their loans wiped out if they attended more than 150 schools named in this particular class action settlement, nearly all of which are for-profit colleges and vocational programs. Now, I went to, I think I got 2 vocational certificates, but I went to a VOTEC that was sponsored by, I believe, my county. And so where I'm from, we have county vocation, and they educate a lot of people. We got fireman training. We have CNA. I forgot what's the lowest education status for nurses. It is an LPN. We have LPN classes. We have HVAC. We have medical assistant. We have phlebotomy. We have a lot of different programs. We have clerical, secretarial programs that are sponsored by the county. Therefore, most people in my city don't go to a for-profit vocation, but we do have, like I said, we got a really big for-profit college in my city. And this deal reverses around 128,000 denial notices that were sent to relief applicants during the Trump administration. So a lot of people during the Trump administration, and we're going to kind of go into that, they tried to get relief from this particular debt, and it was denied. Now, many of the schools involved in the settlement currently now in 2022 are out of business. They include large chains like the Art Institutes and other campuses run by the Dream Center, whose operations shut down in 2019, and those owned by Career Education Corporation. And the Career Education Corporation, at its peak, enrolled 10,000s of students at more than 100 locations. And it also includes schools that are still operating, right? Based on this article, University of Phoenix, Grand Canyon University, and DeVry University. And when Obama was in office, they tried to address this particular problem by updating a federal program called Borrower Defense to Repayment, which says that those people that attended those schools that broke state consumer protection laws or otherwise committed serious misdeeds to have their federal student loans eliminated. However, Betsy DeVos, when she was education secretary under President Donald Trump, froze the program, calling it a free money giveaway. And Ms. DeVos allowed hundreds of thousands of claims to stack up in her final year of office, and her office officials in her office churned out a lot of denials. So people that were trying to get the relief from those particular loans, either they were denied or the particular application for relief was just stacked up. And you get a lot of that when you deal with government, where the timetable is extremely long, and sometimes it's just because they're sitting on the football, right? I think that's going to be the end of that article. Okay, one more. But on the mass denials, the mass denials under Ms. DeVos remain, as well as a queue of tens of thousands of pending relief applications, many of them years old. So this particular deal is going to wipe out all the denials, treating them like they never happened. And the deal also promises to resolve all applications that are not automatically granted for those involving schools not on the settlement list within 6 to 30 months. And this is going to be a really big deal. So many of these people are going to have this particular debt wiped out. And I've known people that have gone through this. They went to some of the schools that were named in this article. And what happens is you kind of get sold on the school on the front end, and you get told, well, you can get it financed. And then when you get in there, like a lot of people, you just drop out. And one thing we see with a lot of private schools is their cost to attend is way higher than a public institution. And they have a right to charge whatever they want to charge. But many people get caught into this because their admission requirements are not the same as a public university. So whether you're going to a community college, whether you're going, let's say hypothetically, when I went to a community college, if you didn't have your SAT scores and they were not within a certain amount of years from the time you graduated, from the time that you try to enter the community college, you had to take what we call a placement test. If you didn't score a certain grade on the placement test from math and English, you could not take college level classes. You had to take classes at the community college that would allow you to work yourself up to a college level. And many people failed on that way up because they just didn't want, you could be told you can't do college level algebra. Therefore, you have to take what we call remedial classes. And you may have 3 classes you have to take to be able to take a college level algebra course at the community college that I went to. And many people within taking those 3 classes would just drop out. However, the cost to take those classes was nowhere near what it was at a private school. Now, I don't know because I didn't go to a private college, do they even have placement exams? Then when you go to a public university, they're very much looking at your SAT or your ACT, also looking at your scores. However, in the state that I'm from, if you come out of the community college and you want to go to a public school in the state, the fact that you graduated from the community college, they have to allow you in the college. Now, they don't have to allow you into that particular school. But me graduating from a state accredited community college, the state university I went to had to accept me. But I also was accepted into the school I went into because of the credits I had and also because of my GPA. But that's pretty much the process. And so we're looking at a lot of these private organizations. I don't know if they have a placement exam. How do they determine how people get placed? Or is it as long as you can pay, you're in? There are no qualifications to let you in. So what you can get is a lot of people that may not be a good fit for that school. But as long as we can get them financed and we can get the money, which is really coming from the government or coming from some type of private bank, and we can get them financed, then we let them in. Now, here's one of the questions we want to talk about. We're waiving this money, right? Okay, so the people are going to be made good. However, if you was in type of federal loan program, Pell Grant, or any other type of federal loan program, and you got caught up in this, and let's say that it determined that in this class action settlement that, the school was involved in some type of consumer error. I don't know if that's the proper word legally. They did something that we can perceive as being against the consumer, or they misrepresented themselves. But they use your federal loan program. Maybe let's lay something like the Pell Grant. We're going to wipe this clean. Is your situation reinstated? And that's something we want to talk about. And so I'm going to show you another article, right? Now, this is an older article. This is from when Biden pretty much came into office. Now, I forgot the date, but this is an older article. And it talks about how for-profit colleges are fighting for their students to be eligible for increased federal financial aid, and President Biden's Build Back Better package, which we know didn't go through after House Democrats passed legislation excluding the sector from new Pell Grant spending. Restricting access to the federal government's largest financial aid program for college students would mark a change in the way in which the program works. Pell dollars are afforded to students based on their family income, not where they enrolled. House advanced the package on Friday with a provision boosting the maximum Pell Grant by $550 in each of the next 4 years. This will bring the max to more than 7,000 this year, but an estimated 900,000 Pell recipients attending for-profit college would be excluded from the bump in funding. So the new money is going to only be earmarked for the roughly 5 million recipients enrolled in public and private nonprofit colleges and universities. And it's a clear attempt to dissuade people from going to for-profit schools, said Jason Outmeyer, chief executive of the Career Education Colleges and Universities, which represent for-profit colleges. So this is probably a lobbying group or an advocacy group for for-profit colleges, which makes sense. When you're making that kind of money, you're going to want some political and also legal representation to represent your interest in the halls of power. That makes sense. And that's the question we want to ask. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're giving them loan relief. I get it. I'm all for it. I said before, I don't care if they wipe it all clean. It doesn't matter to me because it's not going to change my situation. I mean, that little bit of money compared to how much money is already on the table, it's not going to matter. Like, we're past that point anyway. However, if they use a federal program or a federal entitlement, and now we feel like, okay, we used it in this particular for-profit school, and one of the for-profit schools that we said, we're doing things in error, do they get that reinstated? Because one of the biggest challenges a lot of people have is that they get financing to go to these for-profit schools. It doesn't work. Now they're in debt. And then because that debt is on the books, they now can't get another loan to maybe go to a school that they feel like, okay, maybe it's correct. Or maybe I have to go through the process that I went through, where maybe you got to take some remedial classes to put yourself up on a college level, and you're willing to go through that long, laborious process to get to the position to where, okay, now I can go to a public university, or, whatever you need to go through to put yourself in a position to where you're in a better situation. And that's the question we want to ask. And until we, in my opinion, solve that problem, also want to ask the question, but it's really not relevant to this particular video, is do these for-profit schools get federal subsidies? So it means they get federal subsidies to operate, right, even though their business model, right, may not be correct. And that's what we want to ask. So I'm not against a for-profit college. People have a right to form a school around education. I've told people millions of times the reason why I don't buy into any of this online scam stuff is because the people that are selling this, they know their audience doesn't read, they don't study. So they'll never come across this article. And we're talking about $6 billion. And we got people online talking about somebody selling the class for $2,000. You understand me? What I really want you to understand is that there's a bigger game that's being played that can impact you negatively that you're not aware of because of what you're focusing your attention on. And many people were caught in this situation and they didn't have a way out because they needed legislation and somebody to change the rules of the game to allow them a way out. And I'm happy they got a way out. I really am. I'm happy that they're able to get this thing wiped clean. That's pretty much going to be this article. If you got any questions, hit me up in the comments. David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. I'll talk to you later.